We've talked about this on the channel already, but I never could have imagined it would advance so quickly in the past few days because David Johnston, the special investigator into all the election interference concerns, who was appointed to this position by his longtime friend and colleague, Justin Trudeau, well, David Johnston has now resigned, saying that he can no longer continue in his role as special investigator or special rapporteur. Now, there's been a lot of criticism about this from all other parties except for the Liberals. Both the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, and the Conservatives have all called for David Johnston to resign and to step down. They even voted on it in the House of Commons and passed it as a motion saying, hey, we don't think that David Johnston is the right guy for the job. But amidst all of this, Trudeau and Johnston said, no, I am the person to do this job, or David is the person to do this job. We're going to continue on as we planned. But all that changed late last night when David Johnston issued his resignation letter to his longtime acquaintance, Justin Trudeau. And we're going to go over this today, but this comes on the heels of what we reported earlier in this week, that there was a big issue with one of the sort of PR firms that was hired by David Johnston to help him with this situation, and the connections between that PR firm, Navigator, and now, as we're finding out, Han Dong, the Liberal MP, who had to step down amidst allegations that he was sort of a agent of the Chinese Communist Party. So it seems that these concerns between the ties of Navigator to the person who's doing the investigation and some of the people that are being investigated as a part of this investigation, well, that paired with all of the votes that have happened in the House of Commons saying, David Johnston, you're not the right guy for this, you're not that guy, well, now he's stepped down, and we're going to take a closer look at this. And this feels like a classic kind of a Friday night before a weekend news dump so that not as many people sort of follow the story as they're busy on their weekends. But he says in this letter, Dear Prime Minister, when I took on this job, my objective was to help build trust in our democratic institutions. But now, given the highly partisan atmosphere around my appointment and work, note that highly partisan claim there, my leadership has had the opposite effect, and I'm therefore tendering my resignation effective no later than the end of June or as soon as I deliver a brief final report. His middle section recaps what he said in his report that came out a couple of weeks ago, saying we don't need a public inquiry into this. We can just do public hearings. He says that he still believes that that is the right way to go. But in this final paragraph, he says, I encourage you to appoint a respected person with national security experience to complete the work that I recommended in my first report. Ideally, you would consult with opposition parties to identify suitable candidates to lead this effort. Who could have thought that that would be the solution? Look, right from the start covering this story, both myself as well as the opposition party leaders said, hey, we have no problem with David Johnston as a person. He's had a respected career, which is true. He's been sort of appointed to different roles by both Conservatives, Liberals. He's a well-respected person. But when Trudeau appointed him into this important position where he would be largely investigating the government, a lot of people had concerns, a lot of people had criticisms due to the long-term relationship between Trudeau and David Johnston and David Johnston's former role on the board of the Trudeau Foundation. Which is why right from the beginning, starting 3 months ago, this was so baffling to me. I'll show you a clip here. This is from the live stream where Trudeau announced David Johnston as his special rapporteur, special investigator into this situation. And I talk about how I think that this just isn't going to be enough for a lot of people, and I question why this would even be his decision. I'll recap you on sort of what's happened since then in a second, but take a look at this. That's not just like, that's what people are going to end up saying about this, not the multiple things he's trying to do to make this nonpartisan. In a lot of people's eyes, I think it's just not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough if he's the one that's choosing the person that's going to write this report, even if it is a mutually respected, independent person that Conservatives like and Liberals like. For a certain amount of people, that's not going to be enough. And I think that if he had, although it would be more complicated and more challenging for him and potentially open it up to more partisanship, if he could somehow put together a panel equally weighted of each political party, and then they choose the person, maybe that would be better. Maybe that would play out better. I think that's the one area of misstep. I think in practice, this is a good idea, right? To have someone decide what we do about this rather than it being partisan. But the fact that he's the one sort of choosing who that is, I think is the big misstep. And I'll reemphasize, everybody saw this coming. This was streamed 3 months ago when we talked about this on the channel. And it just seems like such a waste of time where 3 months later, countless public dollars later on these inquiries, hiring Navigator to be your PR firm, along with other sort of contractors that had to help out David Johnston with this report, the fact that we're getting to the same conclusion that many people, including myself, came to immediately after he was appointed, that you need to pick a respected person. He did that with David Johnston. Yes, respected person by both sides. With national security experience, David Johnston didn't have national security experience. He's saying, do that for the next guy that you put in this role. And ideally, you would consult with opposition parties, which is exactly what I said in that clip I showed you, to identify suitable candidates to take the lead in this effort. Because if you're not consulting with the other parties and getting to some sort of neutral middle ground for the person that you want to deal with this situation, then obviously any of the work that is done is going to be questioned heavily by those opposition party members, right? So it just baffles me that this decision wasn't made in the first place, and it's really a disappointing and sad end to a career for David Johnston, a largely respected Canadian member of the political system, right? Former Governor General, respected by conservatives and liberals alike, but now he's sort of got this situation sort of tainting the end of his career. So now all eyes are on Trudeau as to how is he going to handle this situation. It's already been mishandled for months now, leading to this, needing his special rapporteur to step down. But is there going to be a public inquiry now? That is the opinion of the House of Commons, that there should be one. They actually voted on a motion saying they need a special public investigation, sort of launched a public inquiry. They voted in favor of that, but the Prime Minister isn't under any obligation to actually launch this investigation. But all of a sudden, the chances have gone up significantly that they will launch this, because this is the position of the opposition parties, that we need a full public inquiry, but Trudeau has said we don't really want to do that. So now I wonder if he's going to be able to go back to these heads of the opposition parties and say, okay, I don't want to do public inquiries, but can we come to a conclusion on who the right person is for the special rapporteur job, doing the job that he probably should have done 3 months ago, finding the sort of neutral middle ground person. But it doesn't seem like the government is taking any sort of accountability for their missteps here in appointing David Johnston to this role, instead blaming the opposition parties themselves. Late Friday night, Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Dominic LeBlanc issued a statement accusing the Conservative Party of driving Mr. Johnston out of his job, citing its partisan attacks. And this is something that's frustrating to me, because anytime there's sort of dissidence from your points of view as a government, you can just say, oh, it's partisan attacks. The Conservatives are just trying to score points. The NDP are just trying to score points. There's no validity to their concerns. And that's sort of the approach they're taking here. He continues saying, the Prime Minister has tasked me with consulting with experts and opposition parties on next steps and to assess who is best to lead the work. So him saying who is best to lead the work makes it sound like they're going to look for a new special rapporteur, one that gets the sign off from all parties so that they can actually accept his findings. But the question still remains, are they going to actually accept having another special rapporteur appointed, and maybe we don't like the findings there, or something messed up happens like the Navigator situation with this new guy, and we're 3 months more down the line, and now it's been 6 months that nothing has been done because it's been so heavily mishandled. I'm curious what's going to happen. I'll let you know as the new information comes out, so make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, to keep these updates in your subscriptions feeds. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I read every single one, try to get back to as many as I possibly can. But with all that said, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you out at least a little bit, and I'll see you next time.